Perfect. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have an incredible guest with us today, one who is going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than the great Dr. Anthony Montero out of Philadelphia. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be with you.
Yes, sir. The pleasure is ours. And as we get started today, sir, first of all, I just want to thank you on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience for taking time out of your busy schedule to come have a conversation with us. The first question that we want to know is, what everyone wants to know is, because there's a large buzz about the event coming up. How did the event come about?
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. This year is the 125th anniversary of the birth of Paul Robeson. Last year, 6 months earlier than Paul Robeson's birthday, was the 125th birthday of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So we decided we wanted to put the two of them together to celebrate their 125th birthdays. I might just add, here in Philadelphia, I was quite dissatisfied with the way that the 125th birthday of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was dealt with in this city. And so we felt that we must celebrate these two huge figures in world history, by the way, in world history, to make up for the failure to really honor and celebrate the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on his 125th anniversary. But more than that, to show a commonality between these two world historic figures. And that's why we titled the event Indestructible Love, the Magnificent Lives of Paul Robeson and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we really mean that, Joshua. We mean that. Magnificent lives dedicated to the people. And again, some people, if you don't mind me just talking a little bit more, this has never been done. People have celebrated Paul Robeson, people have celebrated the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but not together. And one thing that brings them together, among others, one thing that brings them together is their love for the people. I mean, really, love for the people. And that's why we call it indestructible love. It couldn't be destroyed. Even in death, it still lives, that love.
That's beautiful, sir. And people are showing you love all across the country. My sisters Miriam and Naima both say peace, family. Like salam, y'all. Thank you all for watching. Brother Nelson Rainbows, all the way from Massachusetts. Thank you all, everyone who's showing love all across the country. Okay, so when is the event, sir?
The event is this Saturday, June 17th, at the First Unitarian Universalist Church in Philadelphia. The address is 2125 Chestnut Street. And we're going to do a film showing on the evening before at the Church of the Overcomer in a suburb of Philadelphia called Trainer, Pennsylvania. And we're showing this documentary on Paul Robeson called Paul Robeson, A Man for the Future.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, thank you very much. And people are showing you love. I can't wait to put this on YouTube as well. My sister Miriam says, two Black men worthy to be celebrated. Absolutely, Mimi. What I wanted to ask is, let's start with Paul Robeson
Yes.
for a moment. For those who may not know, could you clear us with some of his history and some of the things that are going to be shown in the film?
Yeah. Let me just say, Paul Robeson is one of the most extraordinary men in history.
Mm.
His father was a slave. He was born in Princeton, New Jersey. His mother was killed in a house fire early on in his life. He would go on to matriculate at Rutgers University, the State University of New Jersey, where he excelled in sports and in academics. Everything he did on the sports field, be it football, basketball, baseball, or whatever, he excelled in and became an All-American football player, I think baseball player, but whatever he did in sports, he excelled in. When he graduated from Rutgers, he thought he might want to be a lawyer. So he goes to Columbia University Law School, he gets a law degree, but along the way, in the 1920s, this is the period of the Harlem Renaissance, where all of these young Black artists and musicians and creators were redefining what it meant to be a Black man or woman in this world, and they were using art. In fact, there was, this is just parenthetically, there was a great debate between the poet Langston Hughes and W.E.B. Du Bois. And Langston Hughes was much younger than Du Bois, and hence a different generation. And Langston Hughes said, all of that sociology and history that you, Dr. Du Bois, have used to explain us is inadequate. And what we need to really understand the souls of Black folk is art. And, but that was the Harlem Renaissance. So Robeson gets caught up in that. And he becomes an actor in an off-Broadway production of a play by the great British playwright Eugene O'Neill. And it seems like the acting bug caught his imagination. But somehow along the way, he discovers, and everybody discovers, excuse me, that he has this extraordinary voice, what is known as a basso profundo, the deepest bass voice that's registered. And there are only a few cultures in the world that produce that type of voice. One of them is Russia, which will attract him to Russia because of a common interest in music and singing. But throughout the Harlem Renaissance, Robeson abandons any interest in the law and moves completely into the arts. But then he and his wife, Eslanda, decide to move to London. And Paul Robeson matriculates at the London School of Economics, and in particular, in its school of what they called Oriental Studies, the studies of Africa and Asia, more or less the study of those cultures and civilizations that the British were colonizing. But there, Robeson becomes interested in the civilizations of the darker races. That will remain a preoccupation of his throughout the rest of his life. But he's not just interested in the performative part, he's deeply interested in the languages of Africa. So he ends up learning about 15 or 20 languages, African languages, from various language groups, Bantu, Afro-Asiatic languages of Northeast Africa, among them being Arabic, by the way.
Mm.
But he learns languages. He feels, because he is this great mind, this great genius, that he learns languages very quickly. And in fact, he enters upon a scientific project of showing that all human beings are linked in certain ways of culture and civilization, but also language.
Mm.
And he makes an extraordinary discovery, and I don't know if this was in the 30s or 40s or when, that he felt there was a civilizational pole going from the center of Africa to the center of Europe.
Mm.
And what brought him to this conclusion was the fact that he said, I could learn Russian so easily because I knew Bantu languages.
Mm.
Do you get my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So he begins entering upon a scientific research program of showing in the end that all men are brothers, that what divides the human race is not inherent to the human race, it is the political and economic systems, especially of capitalism and colonialism and racism, that benefit certain people at the expense of humanity's recognition of its oneness. I like to say that he discovered the universal human, that in every culture and civilization is present the culture and civilizations of all other peoples. I don't know whether that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In every language is the language of other languages. I mean, this is quite extraordinary that the natural state of human existence is oneness and completeness as human beings. This is a scientific discovery, but it's a great spiritual awakening. We've still not taken Robeson seriously enough in this regard. But Robeson, recognizing this, that all men are brothers, and he would sing this ode, which is a part of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It's called An Ode to Joy. And in it, Robeson sang in both German and English this ode, All Men Are Brothers. And he sang it in a way that I don't think many people have ever sung it. But this, all of this thinking and scientific research and so on brought him into the anti-colonial and anti-fascist struggles. And thus he becomes, and this, I don't think any person has ever done this. The only person that comes near to it is Muhammad Ali. Comes near to it. But Robeson went from art to the struggle against colonialism and against the colonization of Africa. And he also stood up against Hitler and the rise of Nazism in World War II. And, you know, the US government, of course, was opposed to Hitler and mobilized the population of the United States against Hitler. After the war is over, the US government expected that Robeson would now join the US government in a Cold War, even threatening nuclear war against the Soviet Union. And he literally says to the US government, let me reintroduce myself. And he says, I was not just fighting against Hitler, I was fighting for the rights of the Soviet Union, of China, and other nations to build a different kind of social system than capitalism. This led to the US government during the McCarthy period of the 1950s to label him an agent of a foreign government because of his opposition to the US building nuclear weapons and threatening to use them. His passport was taken. He was reduced to a non-citizen with few rights to travel, and he was an international figure. So people wanted him all over the world to come. They wanted to give him honorary degrees and other things. But the State Department took his passport. They also took his capacity to make a living with his art. For example, he talks about a situation in, I think, Kansas City, Missouri, where he was invited to speak and give a concert at a church, at a Black church. And the governmental and powerful forces in that city said in no uncertain terms to the minister of that church, and I guess to the congregation, if you have Paul Robeson here, we will take your mortgage away from you and take your church away from you. So he was denied the right to make a living. People were denied the right to see and hear him, to hear his points of view. In the end, Paul Robeson, who gave it all, you know, like they say, Joshua, in boxing, and I'm a boxing fan.
Yes, sir.
You know, a boxer who fights the best fight will say, I left it all in the ring.
That's right.
And that's Robeson. He gave it all of it, putting himself second. That he, and you know, I think about this a lot, and it's very emotional to think about. A single human being who said, I will put humanity on my shoulder and carry them across the finish line. It was such an awesome task that he ends up emotionally exhausted and broken. Not unusual, but he gave so much. And so he would receive certain treatments, which I don't know if they helped him or harmed him. But for the last 10 years of his life, he retreated from public life. And in retreating, as it were, he said, I've not abandoned any of my beliefs. But you know, with all soldiers, you need a rest sometimes.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying, man?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And for the last 10 years of his life, he lived in Philadelphia, which is my city. And in some ways, it brings pride. But in other ways, I wish Robeson had been in another country. He would have been treated with the dignity and respect that he should have been treated with. He was literally reclusive in a small house in West Philadelphia, much too small for a man of Robeson's size and stature. Harry Belafonte, who was mentored by Robeson and is great in his own right.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Yes, you know, and we don't even know the greatness of Harry Belafonte. Well, he was mentored by Robeson. And as Belafonte would have it, he said, you boys and Paul Robeson, and this is Harry, he said, gave us instructions. You know, that's the way Harry Belafonte was. Gave us instruction, told us how to live, how to fight, you know. And I think Harry Belafonte was one of the few people that Robeson's family allowed to visit him in his last decade. And Harry Belafonte said that in visiting Robeson, Robeson was frail of body, but strong of spirit.
Mm.
And he said, Robeson said to him, Harry, nothing has changed in me. I remain who I was and always was. So he dies in 1976. He's funeralized at his brother's church in Harlem, which is in the AME Zion denomination. And in many ways, Paul Robeson was for too many decades forgotten. Younger generations did not know his name, and too often younger people are more interested in the new than in the truth. It goes with youth. I mean, I can't say that I wasn't like that. And so his name was erased. The American ruling class could not be more satisfied and happy that younger generations of Black people did not know him. But now, as they say, his day is marching on. It is his time. It is his time, Joshua. And that is what we're trying to bring forward. Men of this time, and indeed Paul Robeson and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it is the truth that drives us to this conclusion. You know, it's not performing anything or trying to be popular with this or the other audience. It is the truth. And, well, I'll shut up. I've talked too much.
Oh, no, sir. You've been giving us some powerful information as well as inspiration, and people are showing you love all across the country. Of course, Brandon Doe says, loving this informative dialogue. Edie Barraza says, teach Doc. Nathan Barraza says, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the great Paul Robeson belong together. Naeem Abdullah says, AS, thank you for offering us such a profound and professional programming. Colleen Muhammad says, favorite, great interview, brother. People just showing you love all across the country. We can't wait to put this on YouTube. All right, the next thing that we want to deal with, of course, is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then some few questions about yourself so we can learn more about you as well, Dr. Montero. But we have a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast this edition. 1 second. And we're coming right back to our brother, Dr. Montero. One moment. Yeah.
Camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those services. Sister Miriam's ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book. All three available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Kenneth's Bow Tie Maker Extraordinaire. He'll ship you bow ties anywhere across the nation. Dr. Henry Carter's King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad's COVID-19 Disinfected Cleaning Services, out of Chicago. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, available on adulsharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse, both available on Amazon. If you would like to donate or...
Perfect. Thank you, everyone who continues to like, share, subscribe, as well as Cash App the People's Podcast. Please let us know what guests you all suggest so that we can continue to get this great type of knowledge and wisdom from our guests. For you, Dr. Montero, people who are showing you love all across the country, where can we find you on social media, sir? Or are you on social media?
Yeah, I do. I spend more time on Facebook, and you can find me on Facebook, my name, and you can also find me on the Saturday Free Schools Facebook, where we hold public classes every Saturday, and you can hear me talk. You can see what I think about things. And you can see what my colleagues in the free school think. extraordinary young people, I must say.
Beautiful. Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
some
sir.
old people when they can get up, but
Listen, now the free school that you're referring to, is this something that if we're how do people who are in Philadelphia be a part of it? Like how can they sign up?
well, you just come.
Mm.
We've been for the last month essentially on a Zoom, Facebook, and other places. But we started 10 years ago at Temple University. It was my effort to bring together students in African American studies and other disciplines to think along with the people in the broad community of North Philadelphia, which is overwhelmingly African American.
Mm.
And so I was trying to create a common discourse where students are not alienated from their people, not alienated from their traditions of resistance. Ultimately, I was, I'll put it this way, driven out of Temple. And we relocated at a historic church in North Philadelphia known as the Church of the Advocate. If people look it up, they'll see this great figure named Father Paul Washington and his work with the Black Power conventions, with the Black Panther Party conventions, and with the day-to-day struggles to feed people, to house people. In a church like the Episcopal Church, which does not have an anti-slavery or an anti-colonial history, Father Paul Washington had to do almost monumental work to move that church as an institution from where it was to where it needed to be. And it was there at that church in 1974 that the first women in the whole history of the Episcopal Church, which is really an offshoot of the Church of England, the first women were ordained as ministers, 12 of them, at the Church of the Advocate under the aegis of Father Paul Washington. But this is a very historic church. We were located there. And recently, we have had to look for other places to hold our Saturday free school. But in the absence of that, we do it online. And I think people will enjoy the conversation. They can join the chat. We talk about everything. Just this past Saturday, we had an in-depth discussion of Cornel West launching his presidential campaign. And just to give you a briefing on it, we saw it as positive, a very positive development. But that's kind of what we do. And we read philosophy, we read social science, we try to keep up with current events on a world level and within the nation itself.
Powerful. Yes, sir. Well, let's make sure we all support our brother, Dr. Anthony Montero. Next, we would like to speak about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and how and what made you decide to want to include him in this program.
Well, I'm not a stranger to the life and work of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm from Philadelphia. I grew up in a city with a powerful Muslim population, an active Muslim population. Back in the days when I was coming up, if you said Muslim, it meant Nation of Islam Muslim, because that is what Islam manifested as. So I was not a stranger to the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I've never been a member of the Nation of Islam. I've always been fascinated with the theology of the Nation of Islam, and still am, by the way.
Mm.
I just say something else parenthetically.
Yes, sir.
You know, in May, we had an event in Chicago at the DuSable Museum of African American History on Paul Robeson. And we had a panel, and I was honored, I really mean honored, to be on a panel with Minister Ismail Mohammed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, let me tell you, I mean, I had always admired him from afar. I had seen his sermons, but then I knew his father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I also, and when I met him, I said, oh, I'm so honored to meet you, brother. And I said, I'm most honored to meet you because I have studied the writings and thinking of your mother. He said, my mother. I said, yes, your mother, Mother Tainetta Muhammad.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Of her theological and philosophical writings. And I'm so happy to meet you for the first time. I'm trying to figure out why I took that detour, but I'm saying, but there's so much in the Nation of Islam that is admirable, highly admirable, including its theology. This is not a small thing, by the way. It is a unique form of liberation theology in a world that needs liberation. So when what is known as the first resurrection was ended without explanation or adequate explanation, I joined with members of Mosque number 12 in various events to restore the Nation of Islam under the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. I mean, believe me, I'm not making this up. And so, I guess that says it all. So I followed the second resurrection very closely. Besides reading the writings of Mother Tainetta, I've also read the writings of Jabril Muhammad. I mean, seriously.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And of course, listening to Minister Farrakhan speak, his lectures on religion and the evolution of religion. And then his having restored the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to his rightful place, not just in the Nation of Islam and not just among Muslims, but his rightful place in the world. In the world. I mean, this is, it's a very emotional thing for me. I sometimes say, I don't know how Farrakhan survived with his life. I mean, he stood for things that could easily have gotten his life taken away. And then the Million Man March. I'm from Philadelphia again.
Yes, sir.
The largest number of men going to the Million Man March came from Philadelphia. Of course, this meant that Minister Farrakhan was in Philly a great deal. And I just saw his selfless effort to bring this about. Nobody else could have done it. And all the haters in the world can't change that. He was driven and motivated by something larger than him. And it came off. And it was a great coalition of Black people, men and women. And it was a proud day in 1995. So how does the Honorable Elijah Muhammad fit into all of this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was just my personal reason. that I respected the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I respected his theology. I respected his message to the Black man. I respected his how to eat to live, cleaning up Black people, that you don't have to live like a slave. And in particular, especially now when you put him with Robeson, because we in the free school believe that Robeson was imagining and conceiving what we call an Afro-Asiatic reconfiguration of world humanity.
Mm, mm,
An Afro-Asian re-centering of world humanity. This parallels the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's argument that we are Asiatic Black men and women. These two concepts, two imaginaries from two men who probably never met, coming together in the 21st century, is so significant to me. So, I guess a big question for a lot of people, a lot of young people, and not just young Black people, by the way, a lot of young Asians, they want to know, who is this Black man who talked about an Asiatic Black man? And in the free school, we have people from China, from India, from Korea, as well as Afro-America, and so on and so forth. And one thing that young Chinese people have asked, and young Vietnamese and Cambodian people in the free school have asked, or stated or asserted, they say, we are Asiatic Black men.
mm.
And this goes against the stereotype that all Asians want to be white.
Mm.
And what comes out is that is a very troubled identity for most Asians. Most go along to get along, but it is not the identity of their choosing. Hence, the notion that they are Black men and women from Asia, which then brings them in to the great struggle, the great culture, the great civilization of Black folk in America. And if you've never experienced it, it's hard to explain. I had never experienced it. This great regard for the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Minister Louis Farrakhan. And for us, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad can no longer be dismissed. Can no longer be dismissed. It is a violation of the truth. It's really a put down of the African American people, out of whom he comes and to whom he spoke and sacrificed. For us to limit and diminish him is a crime that we commit against ourselves. And people who would do such to themselves are not worthy of very much, are not worthy of their own freedom. I don't know whether I'm making all the sense that I should be making, but we must end this charade of denial of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You don't have to become a Muslim. In fact, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Black people had all the religion they'd ever needed.
That's right, that's right.
But what they needed was a movement for freedom. And if your religion does not assist you in achieving freedom, you should choose another religion. And he's absolutely right. But this, can I say something else, Joshua? I don't know if I'm talking too much.
No, absolutely. Take your time.
A man who spoke in simple terms to make complex ideas accessible to ordinary people, especially those who were in prison, those who were drug addicted, those who had given up on life and on hope. To talk to those people, to awaken them, you don't need big words. You have to speak directly to them. You have to speak in ways that they can hear you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And it was not easy to hear the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the 30s and 40s and 50s and so on. It was difficult because he was speaking truths that were inconvenient, truths that were uncommon. But now it turns out that the truths that he spoke back almost 100 years ago now are common knowledge. The question is, how will we implement that truth?
Excellent. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And thank you very much, Dr. Montero. People are bearing witness to your great transparency and teaching people, saying you make so much sense, helping understand. That's right. Go ahead. Yes, they love Philly. People sending you heart emojis and all of this greatness. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Well, I wanted to ask you, sir, about your personal life. How has being a grandfather impacted you?
Well, it impacts me very, very much. My life is not normal or usual. I think from my earliest days of childhood and teenage years, I felt that I never wanted to be just ordinary. There was something always driving me to think differently, to be different. Of course, I wanted to hang out. I wanted to party. I wanted to have girlfriends. I wanted girls to think I was cute. All of that.
Yes, sir.
But I felt myself always wanting to be something different. So my children and grandchildren know me, but don't really know me completely. That is not unusual. Look at the life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Can we say that Wallace Muhammad understood his father? I don't think so. He was an adversary of his own father. That is not unusual. He opposed his father's vision. Paul Robeson's son was at odds with his father. He wishes that his father had been a more normal father. He wishes his mother had been a more normal mother. But I think sometimes my children look at me that way. I try to be the best that I can be while not abandoning the principles of truth and justice. And I just hope that at some point in life, they understand me better. So I'm proud to be a grandfather. I'm proud to be a father, but that carries a certain burden with it, especially if you live an unusual life. So that's what I would say, Joshua.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. And thank you very much for that. Also, shout out to all the people who are going to watch on YouTube when we upload it today. Brother Musa, just all the people who always continue to show us love on YouTube as well. But I wanted to ask you, what type of music do you listen to, sir?
Well, I'm a jazz man, in particular the avant-garde, which I will explain.
Okay.
And I'm a rhythm and blues man.
Okay.
I think rhythm and blues, of course, we got the Philly sound here, out of which some great art has come. I think rhythm and blues is one of the great achievements musically and artistically of Black people. It's not just partying music, etc. It is a great music. And rhythm and blues has attracted to itself jazz and avant-garde jazz. In other words, I'm from Philly. I've said this so many times.
Yes, sir.
A lot of great jazz artists, as well as rhythm and blues artists, come out of Philly. One of them is the great trumpeter Lee Morgan. Lee Morgan comes from North Philly, and he is one of the 2 or 3 greatest virtuoso trumpet players in the history of this country. Yeah, and all of them recognize. In some ways, his virtuosity may have surpassed Miles Davis's. And that's not just me talking. I mean, a lot of people in the music would make that point. That's not to take anything away from Miles Davis. But Lee was a part of a movement called hard bop to make modern jazz more accessible to ordinary people, who were listening to rhythm and blues or blues. So he was listening to R&B of his day. And you hear it if you listen to his music. Now, avant-garde musicians, like, for example, John Coltrane,
yes,
who
sir,
also grew up in Philadelphia, North Philly. Coltrane played and often performed in bars and nightclubs a rhythm and blues type of music. He knew church music because his father was a minister, but he also knew the music of the people, which was R&B and blues, but R&B in Philly. And you listen to him play, you hear R&B. So there's this coming together. And I could name a number of people, for example, Sun Ra. Now, when I say I'm into the avant-garde, that does not mean I'm not into, let us say, Miles Davis or Fletcher Henderson or Duke Ellington or
yes,
who else? Oscar Peterson, Ahmed Jamal. I'm definitely into all of that. But my preference and what the music and jazz I hear the best is the avant-garde. And these figures are less known than others, but such figures as Cecil Taylor. I mentioned Sun Ra, who I have to say might be my favorite.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Work, his great innovations. But that's my thing. R&B, and I like R&B. I like the Delphonics. I like the Stylistics. I like the OJs. I like the whole Motown thing. Stevie Wonder in particular, who I by the way, I put Stevie Wonder as a composer near to, if not on the same level of Duke Ellington. The greatest second half of the 20th century into the 21st century composer in this country, maybe in the world.
Mm.
Yeah, yes, he's just that huge. The other thing I love about R&B is its nearness to the people. So when the people started marching and singing and militantly fighting for their freedom, you could see the R&B lyrics begin to reflect that. For example, you know, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes with Teddy Pendergrass had a song, Wake Up Everybody. Whitehead and McFadden, Ain't No Stopping Us Now. Of course, the body of Stevie's work, of Nina Simone, more in the blues, jazz, and classical piano tradition, but she bends it all, she reshapes it all. Of course, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On is unsurpassed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You see what I'm saying? But then you take jazz, avant-garde jazz. Another guy from Philly is Archie Shepp. And, you know, he produces a lot of albums at that time. One called Attica Blues, which was a tribute to the Attica prison uprising of the early 1970s. Archie Shepp and Max Roach came forward with an album called The Long March, which is a tribute to the Chinese Revolution. They had another album called Sweet Mao Zedong, again, a tribute to the Chinese Revolution.
Yes, sir.
So, how could I not be about that? And those are my reasons. That's why I don't like trivialized music, commodified entertainment. A lot of people say, this is art. I say, no, let's reserve the term art for something special. What you're doing is entertaining people. And maybe not doing it too well because you're not raising their consciousness in the process.
Yes, sir. That's it. And thank you, everyone who continues to send them love. Someone said that's how she got her name, from John Coltrane, Naima.
Yes.
Okay,
that's John Coltrane's first wife.
Okay.
Yes.
Jay Care says, I hope someday they understand me better. He was quoting you, and people just showing you love. All right, we have one more question for you, Dr. Montero. Once again, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we thank God for your sacrifice and the sacrifices of your family as well, for you to help be on the front line, spreading knowledge and wisdom and understanding to our people through the educational system, through the community, just the hard work that you've done. We're very appreciative of your life as well, sir. We want to make sure that we reiterate that everyone comes and shows love this Friday to the event. And I want to make sure that we,
Joshua, this Saturday.
The Saturday to the event.
Yes,
sir, June 17th. But I wanted to ask you, what do you want your legacy to be, Dr. Montero?
I don't think about that at all. I think about what has to be done. Oh, by the way, Joshua, I thank you for expressing love for my family. I really do, man.
Oh, yes, sir.
Every family needs as much love as they can get from as many people as they can get it from. But no, I just honestly, I don't see myself as a legacy. I see myself as just a regular person out here on the battlefront of truth. You know, as you all in the Nation of Islam say, I guess the fruit of Islam always said, I'm on post.
Yes, sir.
I've decided that I will live this way, and I'm living this way not for any reason other than to fight for the truth and for the ultimate liberation of our people.
Excellent. Yes, sir. And on that positive note, everybody in the comments saying, putting prayer hands, saying beautiful, thank you, and they're showing love. Once again, June 17th. Could you let us know the exact address, sir, one more time, sir?
Okay, I'm going to say the title, and then I'll give the details.
Yes, sir.
The title is Indestructible Love, The Magnificent Lives of Paul Robeson and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The event will take place in Philadelphia on June 17th at the First Unitarian Universalist Church at 2125 Chestnut Street. The doors will open at 10 o'clock. This will not be an event of a lot of speeches. It will mainly be music and art. It's what we call an inter-civilizational festival of art and music, everything from African dance to avant-garde jazz and regular jazz, to Korean dance, Cambodian dance, to singing from various parts of the world. So it's a music and art festival. Oh, by the way, I should not have forgotten. I don't know whether you know of student minister Abdul Haq Mohammed.
Yes, sir.
From Mosque 25.
Yes,
He
sir.
will be speaking
Beautiful.
on the special contribution of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I welcome everybody to come to take part in this. We will be providing a free lunch for everyone, done by an Indonesian caterer. So that's what it is.
Excellent. Yes, sir. And on that positive note, make sure we all support. Can't wait to put this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok as well. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off with the People's Podcast. Thank you again, Dr. Anthony Montero, and thank you all for watching. You have a great rest of your day, sir.
Thank you.